Salutations, Dr. Mosley. Welcome to SheHOODed.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's get this going.
I know, right? Okay, so just a little bit of background. SheHOODed is a podcast that I created when I was working on my PhD. I was about to get ready to defend, actually. And I just thought about how people were always telling me like how authentic I was to be a girly that was from, like the hood, but also going into an environment where I was about to be hooded as an academic. And so like combining like the hood mentality plus the academic mentality plus like spirituality and all of these things. And I was like, I don't think we as academics or scholars or professionals a lot of time like create spaces or have spaces where we can be all of those things. And so I wanted to create that space, and that's what this space is for. So I definitely feel like you one of the girls. So I just felt like it was about time for you to come on as we're revamping SheHOODed.
Right.
Yep.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to be a part of this. You said now second anniversary?
Oh my goodness, yes. February 22nd, 2025 will be the second year anniversary for SheHOODed, and I'm gonna do better this year about, getting guests consistently.
Congratulations. So
Thank you.
big achievement, girl. You've been doing it. So yes.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Mosley, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a native of Chicago, born and raised on the south side of Chicago. Um, I'm a pastor's kid. I am the youngest of five, and both of my parents are pastors. Coming from the evangelical Pentecostal aspect, so more so Pentecostal holiness background, and then also very involved in the community. So I have a lot of stuff behind this Dr. Mosley stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
it has been an experience for my career and what I do. So my research, I have a PhD in art
Mm-hmm.
aesthetics and philosophy. Prior to that, I have a master's of degree in education, particularly higher ed administration, and then a bachelor's in fine arts. So I'm a painter, educator, creative, just all around. I went back to school for my PhD in art aesthetics and philosophy because I wanted to focus on performance art,
Mm-hmm.
looking specifically at blues to hip hop as the now foundation of modern blues. So my research focuses on connecting womanism and the spirituality of blues to hip hop today. So I am a blues singer. I'm a blues performer. I've been doing that for the last, I'll say, 7 years. So in the midst of my PhD program, I was living overseas in Italy and touring with my band that I have over there. That was a wonderful opportunity and experience. We'll get back into that. And then I've since came back to the States because I've now ventured in connecting the blues and hip hop to AI technology, and then venturing with the now younger blues band where we integrate all the sounds of Black music into an element and a teaching curriculum for young people.
Awesome. Come on
Hey,
through with the. I'm talking about just accolade after accolade after accolade, and
hey.
they want to talk about DEI not being married. What is it? Not having merits.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Oh,
Yes,
okay. Let's
ma'am.
not play with it. Don't play with it. Don't play with it.
No, no.
Okay. What'd you say?
I said no, no.
Okay, so just to clarify for people who may not know on the call, who may watch this, what is womanism, and how do you actually apply that in the blues space? Particularly, I'm interested in like the blues space and that education, the art education.
Okay, so when we talk about womanism, for the most part, it comes out of um, a form of feminism, Black feminism more specifically, but it has a connection that has a more universal aspect and understanding to the experiences of women of color in America, but also on a more global perspective. And it looks at different directions and how the understanding of intersectionality for us, particularly in America, and how that looks like for us. And so it comes with the understanding of we have various layers to who we are. So we're
Mm-hmm.
not just a mother, we're also a sister, a aunt, a cousin, and all of that, and what that looks like for us on a more communal perspective and level. So when we talk about womanism, it comes out of Alice Walker's definition, and she was talking about, and I'm kind of gonna butcher it. I can't even remember it, but when she was talking
Mm-hmm.
about the color purple and the different shades of purple, the lavenders, and all of that, and it's more a communal understanding of what Black feminism is. So in her definition, she was talking about women who love women, women who love men, women who love Black men, is more specifically, but bringing those understandings and those layers of who we are in those relationships to the forefront, and talking about how just within those experiences, there are various different levels of how we engage and interact with people.
Mm. Awesome. Thank you for clarifying there for the audience, for the people in the back. Okay.
Yes, there you
All
go.
right. Now, I have a question for you about the travel. How did you get into being a blues star, superstar, megastar in my mind, and traveling around when you have like this PhD, right? Because like most folks think that like, oh, you get a PhD, like you're in academia and that's what you do,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or you go in the industry and you're doing research and that's what you do. But
Yeah.
to be such a multifaceted person who's going out there like singing the blues and also like incorporating blues and art into like and hip hop into curriculum for kids, like teenagers and stuff, like that's amazing. So how did you get into, being able to be that type of multifaceted professional?
That is a very excellent question, because it just happened. Seriously. Because I had no idea of going in that direction. So while I was touring with my band overseas, and I'll tell you the story of how that happened, I was working on my PhD at the same time. So I'll be
Mm-hmm.
getting on stage performing and getting right back off stage in the back with a book, like, okay, I got to finish this, I got to take this exam, and whatever have you. Um, so within my mind, I never really saw myself of how to bring all this stuff together. I was just in the moment, living life as it is. So when I initially went back to Italy, because I went to Italy where I was living my first time in undergrad with one of my professors, Brenda Jones. She was the only Black professor in the program, and thank God for her. So we went over there, and she told me, she's like, I'm taking you to Italy with me, and you're going to, sit under me, and I'm gonna mentor you, and so forth. And with that experience, that was 1999. And during that experience, I was learning all about the arts, to painting, and the classical elements. And I told myself after that experience, I would always get back to Italy.
Mm-hmm.
17 years later, because it took that long, 17 years later, I found the program, my PhD program, with a residency. So we had to do a residency within our program where we had to travel every summer. So we were in Portugal, France, all around different places. The first year within the program, it just, something came over me. We were in Italy at the time. Something came over me. It was like, you got to stay. So I
Mm.
called my parents. I'm like, I'm staying. I'm not coming back home. And they were like, we've heard this before. So have fun.
Okay.
So I ended up staying. The couple that I was staying with, they were, all up in arms about me being from Chicago, and just a wonderful, just the experience that brought. And they introduced me to some of their friends. Went over to their house, and they was like, sing us a song. And I was like, okay. I ended up singing Sam Cooke's A Change Is Gonna Come. And
What you
it's
saw?
like, huh?
What you saw? What you saw?
Sam Cooke's A Change Is Gonna Come.
Let me hear a little note. What?
We will not right now. I'll come back to
What?
that.
We get a little musical
You
interlude.
always
Mm.
be trying to put folks on the front thing. Okay, but I'll come back. I'll sing for you before we get
Okay.
out. So I sung the Sam Cooke song, and they were like, "So this is your band," and I was like, I didn't come over here for no band. I came over here to relax and get away from the colored people and the crazy people over states, because I'm just they was getting on my nerves, and it was an
Mhm.
interesting time because right when I left, that was President Trump's first term in office.
Mm.
I was like, it's time to go. It is time to go. But that experience was a great opportunity for me. So I had the band, and we were traveling around doing Chicago blues and other entities like that. And I learned a lot about the culture, but I also learned a lot about myself during
Mm.
that time, and it opened up so many different opportunities for me, and it gave me a more love for our Black culture, for our history, because the way that they were asking questions and some of the ways that they were teaching about jazz blues, we were not in it, and I was like,
Mm.
a problem. This is
Yeah.
a major problem. And when I would go to different blues festivals, I would oftentimes be the only Black person there. So that was a problem for me. So that started changing up how I looked at that experience, but also it evoked a more passion for me about Black culture, about our music, and how it is being experienced globally. And I wanted to do something about that.
Okay. And you did something about that.
I
And that
did
is what
something
you
about
did.
it and am doing. Hello.
And okay, you
Yes,
did that and
ma'am.
I'm doing that.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes, yes.
Because you said what you said.
I did. I
Okay.
stand 10 toes on it. Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure the 10 toes. Okay. Just wanted to make sure we was okay. Clenched in.
Yes, indeed.
Clenching the toes in. Okay. Um during your travels, what would you say the best? Because there are a lot of people who have not gone on international trip, like who have not been in an international setting outside of like a weekend or like a girls trip or like a vacation, but for you to go and actually, you know, do work there, like actually, do your art and create and stuff there to be able to like teach there and like show people like the differences and like the culture and to be able to escape that man's first term. What would you say to encourage somebody to actually pursue like an international opportunity?
The best way I would say it is just to give it a try. Because a lot of the fear that I have heard in talking to people, because when I was over there and I would come back and forth over here for conferences or whatever have you, and people were completely shocked, like, you're over there by yourself doing this? I'm
Yeah.
like, what's the problem? I'm not understanding what I don't see a problem. But because there is a such um, misconstrued understanding about international travel, and then for particularly for Black women, in so many aspects, a lot of people just had their thoughts about it. But actually, I felt safer over there than I did in the.
Mm. Wow.
It was
Let's
saying a lot.
elaborate on that.
It says a lot because I was open to just learning about, I was nerding out on a lot of stuff, open about learning about different things about cultures and different things like that. But also, I felt safe because I had a certainty and assurance of who I was as a Black woman.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So I walk in the streets, and actually during that time there was a major influx of a lot of Black migrants coming into Europe and different things. So they had their antennas up about there, and I was always got. They always thought I was an African until I opened my mouth. They was like, "Oh, you American? Okay, you okay?" And as I continue to talk to people and talk to a lot of the folks within the smaller areas that I were in, I came to find out that they don't like white Americans. They have a problem with white Americans because of arrogance and a whole lot of other things. When
Yeah.
they when it came to Black Americans, they was like, we know your history, we know how you're going, what's happening over there. So that was also a saving grace for me. But then also when they found out that I was an artist, I got treated differently because I was in the performing arts. And then when they also found out that I was an educator, I mean, the red carpet got pulled out for me, because the way education is accepted and perceived over there, it's like you are the second coming of Christ if you're an
Mm.
educator. They take education very, very, very well. It's a high thing over there. So, for example, when I was doing a couple of programs and stuff with the young people, and I had maybe a student who thought that they wanted to disrespect. If I talked to grandma or mama, that child would have got choked out because they didn't play that at all
Mhm.
when it came to
Mhm.
regards to education, because they look at it in terms of you are educating and trying to better our people. You're trying to better our young people and give them the knowledge that you know, and then integrating that with the music and the arts and stuff, how they view that. Like I said, that is like you up there with the Pope or something, because they think very highly of the arts, they think very highly of education. Unlike in the States, where our educators are not treated very well or not paid very well. So it's a different cultural experience. So I
Mhm.
had a wonderful time over there. And then traveling by myself between Greece, France, and different things like that. There are aspects of racism that you'll run into, because just that's just the world that we live in, period. But if you go into different spaces with the open opportunity and not looking for foolishness, or if you know how to maneuver certain spaces, because for me growing up in Chicago, you know certain areas not to go.
Right.
If it's
Mhm.
not to go at certain times. If it's a lot of men in one area, you be a little more cautious. So I had that knowledge and that street sense. So I didn't um feel bad, or I didn't feel guarded or anything when I was traveling by myself, or just feeling like I didn't belong, because I wish somebody would have told me I didn't belong over there. Here we are. But
Mhm.
that's a whole nother conversation, because I know of our Black culture. I know the Black influence in other countries and other states. So I felt right at home wherever I was. Just don't put your hands on me. We good.
Right, right. And I could imagine how being from the hood, right? Like you have a different mindset. Like
Yes.
you know how to read people, you know how to
Mm-hmm.
read situations, you know how, like you pay attention to stuff because you know that these are things I need to be aware of.
Yes.
Versus like people who have been more sheltered, they may be like, oh, like I don't like what's wrong with this? Like, yes,
Hey,
this like strange man is inviting me
mm-mm.
down to the beach at midnight for this
Yes,
tour. It's like,
exactly.
ma'am,
Do
no,
not
no.
do that.
Okay, do not do not do that.
Yes.
Okay. I've definitely thought about like doing international travel for work, but I don't know, like sometimes when you be applying for jobs and you see something and they click what location you want to be in, I'd be like, you
Yes.
not no, I don't want to be here, but I'd be like United States because I am a little I do
Why?
have that
Why?
mixed
Why?
sense.
Why?
First of all, they gonna try to get me back.
Let me
Okay.
tell you, seriously, they will. Honestly, I will never forget. I was walking down the street in Greece, and I was with my cohort at the time, and I was one of like, we had a larger, more diverse cohort at the time, and I was one of the only maybe 5 Black women in the group. And I'm plus size, have been plus size my entire life. It is what it is. You're gonna take all this,
Mhm.
enjoy the extra love with it. So I'm
Okay.
walking down the street. This man yells out, "Oh my God." He was Greek. He's like, "Oh my God, I will pay you $1 million. Can I just kiss you?" I was like, hey, come on over. Let me see the money.
Okay.
Let me see the money first, because we just not getting no free kisses.
Okay.
But because we are not what they're used to. And then
Mhm.
also when you learn the histories of those different regions, and particularly southern Italy, and they have the more darker skin tones, and then some of our Black soldiers from World War II or whatever that stayed there, they know the connection to Black people. They know the history,
Mhm.
and they will let you know, we got some Afro blood in us. I mean, because when you get down to the Mediterranean area, it's really Africa's like right there. So I've
Mm-hmm.
been to like Morocco and different things like that. So it's not that far off. So you have those experiences like when you're walking down, and then especially you being Black American, they love our music, the culture. So they're very familiar with what our experiences are. And then when they see you as a Black woman, particularly like in Greece, their women are more voluptuous and more curvy and stuff, as opposed to other more northern, some of the northern European countries, or even from Ghana, Scotland. Their women are big, busty, and all that other stuff. So oftentimes the color, they love the fact that we have that extra melanin in our skin, that darker skin tones, which is very different than what they see on and on with their women. So I would say experience it, travel, get
Look
out
at you.
of the country, and just enjoy yourself.
I think about it. I think about it.
But
But on that tip, while we're talking about these men over there who love, who love the Black women, who love the voluptuous women, and all of these things, how has dating been for you? Number one, as a Black woman. Number two, like as someone who travels and stuff a lot and does a lot with work. And then also number three, like as someone who has an advanced degree, because I find it difficult, like on all three levels, like to be honest, and especially the integration of all three of them, it definitely makes it
right.
a little difficult. So I'm curious, like, what has your experience been with that?
I would say my experiences have been ups and downs, like
Mhm.
seriously on so many different levels. So when it comes down to race and ethnicity stuff, I have dated the rainbow. So I tasted it and it's been wonderful.
Skittles, Skittles.
Yes, ma'am. I have done it. So I'm not worried about that. What it comes down to me and for me is more about the intellectual aspect. I need somebody
Mm-hmm.
that's going to inspire new conversation, new thoughts, that's going to, get my juices running, because I'll nerd out in conversation on you. So that is the first thing for me. Um, but it has been ups and downs, because for the most part, hands down, I love Black love. I love that it looks good on us. I love, being able to connect with somebody that in certain aspects we can share similar ideals about community, and also share similar conversation and thoughts about um, just where we are in terms of what being a Black American is. On the
Mm-hmm.
other side, there are some outside of our community who are very well knowledgeable about the happenings of our community, the
Yeah.
histories and different things like that. So I'm not opposed to dating and being in relationship with somebody like that. Been there, done that. However, there's also another aspect that we have to consider, and especially when you go to Europe, but also here in America as well, the fetish aspect.
Oh yeah.
There
Mm-hmm.
are a lot of the others who fetishize being with a Black, because I have been online dating as well as face to face dating with people, and they be like, I've never been with a Black woman. Oh, how is it you know what, let me tell you something. What you're not about to do is,
Okay.
not unless you're gonna offer up some money, but that's another conversation. um
Okay. Because what $1 million in for that kiss?
Hello, seriously.
Stop
But
playing.
there are certain people that fetishize the aspect of being with a Black woman because they have heard so many different stories from their grandparents, their cousins, or whoever have you. So those are the ones that you have to like be concerned about and wean yourself off of, or um, basically, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. There's
Mm-hmm.
also men who fetishize being with a big woman, and you have to ask questions about that as well. Like, what are we doing? Is this something that I want to get involved with? But for the most part, I have been in several different situations that I've had to ask those questions. I've had to get down to the nitty gritty and figure out what it is that we're doing or not doing. But ultimately, for the most part, what comes to me that is going to get me to pause and sit still for a moment, you're gonna have to entice me intellectually. Because if you just sending me text messages talking about what you're doing, Get off my phone. Leave me
What
alone.
you doing not responding and not
There you
responding?
go. And blocked. Because I'm not doing this with you at all.
Okay, so being interested, being a sapiosexual means you're interested in like
Yes.
somebody who can like tap into your intellect, right?
Mhm.
Does their intellect have to be your same type of intellect? Because you have some people who are like, if I have a PhD or EDD, I
Yeah.
want somebody who has a PhD or EDD. Or if
Mhm.
I'm an engineer, I want somebody who's in engineering. Or could it be like their intellect could be in, something else that's different than yours, but as long as you're able to have, high level, high conscious conversations, that is what you're after.
No, that's a very good point and a very good thing to be aware of. I am not particular about somebody have to be in the arts or anything like that. Just have an appetite for learning and education.
Yeah.
And I say that because I think about my dad. My dad was uh he received his associate's degree, and that was about as far as he go. But the man sits down and read all the time. You think he got a PhD in education, a PhD in microbiology, a PhD in law. The man is just knowledgeable about everything, and because of that, that's what he taught myself and my siblings, to be knowledgeable about everything. Because in certain aspects, when I've been in situations where I've had to talk to engineers or talk to someone who may be in philosophy or something like that, I'm able to have an understanding of what we're talking about and keep the conversation going. I'm not an expert in that particular field or discipline, but I'm able to keep the conversation going. I want
Right.
somebody who's able to keep me excited about learning, who's able to teach me something. I'm also able to teach them something as well. Be avid about reading and passionate about um, pushing and challenging yourself academically or even just educationally, because you don't have to have a degree. Because I know some dumb
Right.
folks with degrees that's
Hello. Hello.
dumb as hell. However, they got a piece of paper that say they are expert in something, but they dumb as fuck. On the
Mhm.
other side, I know some people that did not go to school, but they're brilliant. They're
Very intelligent.
amazing. Because I even think about some of the young people that I've worked with, who have gotten or been labeled with IEPs and different things like that. Because the educator is or teacher is unable to get their attention, they write them off. But when you sit down and talk to them, some of these kids, brilliant,
Hmm.
geniuses in a lot of different areas, can talk to you about different things, can take a computer apart and put it back together. You'd be looking like, what in the whole high hell are you doing? But we have been placed under the assumption to believe that education looks one way or being smart looks one way, and it's not. So I want somebody who's able to keep me going and challenge me and push me mentally in learning about something new, or even challenging me with new perspectives about where I'm already at. So that's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Okay. And that's dope. And I 100% agree. And I think, it's honestly, I think it's sexier to me to have a man who may not have a degree, but like has that intellect. Cause then it's like, oh, you work extra hard for that knowledge.
Yeah.
You work extra hard for that, didn't boo. Okay.
Yes, it did.
But you brought up a good point though about, education does not look one way, right?
Mhm.
And you think about, and it's really sad, but you have these teachers and educators, and you have some amazing teachers and educators out here. And then you have those who feel like, oh, well, if you can't get it the way that I'm telling it to you,
Right.
then you don't know anything, that you're dumb, or you need to be put in a certain class or whatever. And it's okay if you need extra support and stuff like that. But I tell people all the time, I have 4 engineering degrees, but I don't consider myself smart. I don't consider
Yeah.
myself, super intelligent. I tell folks I'm persistent. I ain't give up. The motherfuckers
Right.
got scared, they got ran off, and I was over there like, well, I want this money.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
want this money,
Yes,
so we
indeed.
about to figure this out. So what's
Yeah.
up? And you have, like you said, you have people who grow up with different ways of knowing, right? When we talk about epistemology, which is a way of knowing,
Right.
you have different people who, like, for instance, the person who could take a computer apart and put it back together, they may have grew up in a home where it was like tech around and like
Yeah.
stuff was always breaking down, or they had a mechanic as a mother or as a
Right.
father, or as
Right.
a brother or sister or whatever. So they saw them constantly taking stuff apart,
Yep.
putting stuff together, doing the cards. So they may not know how to, do this
Put the
calculus
wording and
problem.
everything to it.
Okay, but they could
Yes.
go out in industry and solve most of the world's tech problems
Yes,
if y'all
indeed.
would give them a chance. But because they don't know how to do it in the way
Hmm.
that you capitalize, and granted, this is another frustration that I be having, because the way that we teach in education now is not what the fuck they doing in industry.
It is not.
It's
It
not
is
what they doing in
so
industry.
not.
There is nothing now. Granted, the transferable skills like project management, process optimization, things like that. Like, I have learned that communication skills, team building skills, things like that. I have learned through like the activities that were done in
Right.
my education program. But to be honest, most of my training was done on the job.
On
Like
the
most
job.
of and anything that I was told that I needed to remember, that I needed to know how to do, that I needed to, all of that stuff
Fact.
could have been
That's a
Google
fact.
while I was
That's a
there.
fact.
Could have been Google while I was there in the context of which I was working.
That's a
So
fact. No, that's a
let's just
fact.
start there.
That's a fact. And one thing I also learned in my travels and working with um, various people across disciplines. One of the things that I'm very passionate about as an artist, I like to work with uh, educators and people in the STEM field because there's a lot of similar processes that we have in terms of
Mm-hmm.
how we come to various different outcomes and conclusions. Our creative process that we go through step by step, it yields the same thing, just different aspects of it. So one of the things that I've learned about working with those type of people in collaborations and stuff like that is the fact, especially outside of America, very much about communal and collaborative stuff. So going back to what I
Mm-hmm.
talked about, womanism, they understand that if we work in a group, we can start building and progressing further, if as opposed to if we're siphoning ourselves off and doing it individually. So I have a
Right.
colleague of mine who's a dean at a HBCU down south, and he was talking about some of his travels when he went to China and how they were working on a particular tech a project, and they were all working in groups, but while um tech point one was putting everything together and getting everything started off, they also had the 2.0 people in the same room, like, okay, we're building upon this is not working for
Mm-hmm.
1.0, we're building on 2.0, and so forth and so on. And they were able to get to the outcome quicker because they were seeing that, okay, this is not working for the first one, how can we make
Right.
the second one? We don't do that here in the States. We're all
Mm-mm.
about individual. You can't come in my space because you're going to steal my ideas and stuff like that. And because of that, I realized that as Americans and how our education system is set up, we are so far behind in terms of innovation and creativity because number one, they take the arts out of the program, out of the schools first. Number two, they want you to be workers where you're just listening to somebody and somebody is giving you orders and telling you what to
Mm-hmm.
do.
Yeah.
So they don't want to nurture and cultivate the creativity of people, because when you're working with artists, when you're working with creativity, people with creative minds, we see the world very differently. How a scientist
Mm-hmm.
sees it versus how me as an artist versus somebody who is in um, a more humanities based discipline, we see the world very different. So having all of these people in one space in one room, we could probably solve so many different problems, so many
Yeah.
different situations. But because we are ciphered off, we're looking at it from one angle only. And by the time it does get to the theologian or get to the humanities or sociology, they were looking like, I don't know what is happening here. This just looks so confusing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not coming together and helping to solve some of our problems that we have in communities and in other parts of the world, because America, we're taught to be individualistic, and that's a problem.
It's such a problem, such a problem.
Yeah.
So, speaking of that, because you've been successful with being able to integrate different fields, right? And a lot of times, honestly, I don't know why we still, granted, I understand why we still have discipline, like fields of study. But if we're being honest, most of our fields of study correlate or combine can are interdisciplinary with another one. And so, like
Yes,
when you
indeed.
think about like your work with like art and education and STEM and now like AI and stuff. Like how were you able to within your collaborations, like how were you able to come up with your like niche project or like topic?
Mhm. I would say I've always been hungry for something different. I can say that growing up in Chicago, even one of the things for me, growing up in a large city like Chicago, I remember taking the bus to school and just looking at the up at the big tall buildings, like, this is nice, but I'm sure something bigger in the world is out there. And I always had a drive to always chase after something that was bigger. And because um I was inquisitive about a lot of things, and because I wanted to keep seeing what the world had to offer, that is what pushes me forth in terms of seeing things differently and how I look at situations. So I've always been one that's not about traditional. I'm very much a non-traditionalist when it comes to education and how we look at things. So a lot of people were like, you need to be in a classroom setting and you need to be doing this. I'm all about, you can learn outside of the classroom. You can
Hello,
learn out.
informal learning spaces.
Yes, very much so. And because what I've come to know in the walls of the academy, for the most part, there's a lot of people who are writing these theories, don't even know if they applicable, don't even know how they
Mhm.
connect to certain communities or certain groups of people, but it just seems good and we did a lot of tests and yes, we're gonna run with it. But if you apply these same theories to, say, for example, a country in Northern Africa versus a country in Southern America, you're going to have different
Mhm.
results, because culture is different. How they view the world is very different. There's going to be so many outside abnormalities that come with the results that you give. But because
Yeah.
we live in a Western ideal, and whatever they say goes in Western society, it is what it is. We come with these universal plans like, this is it, and we're good to go. But another thing for me that I'm also since engaged in being in the academy, being outside of the academy as well, but also learning more about myself and what I do with womanism, what I do with the blues and hip hop, and how there's so many different variables within just me as an educator. I'm looking at it from also a spiritual lens in terms of
Mhm.
how Western ideals like to situate God, the higher being, whatever you want to call it, as binary. But there's so many different levels of who God is, what God is, how he moves, what he moves, how she moves.
Right. You can't put no limit on 'em.
You can't put no limit on God. So if you're putting a limit on, don't you know what? Where's my tambourine? Where's my tambourine? But you can't put no limit on God, and that's the confining of what our brain sees. But if you're looking at all these different levels of science, the humanities, and all of that, and you situate it from just a binary either or, you're limiting yourself and how you see the world, and also how you see creation and how you see innovation. Because if you are looking at it from only just two areas, that
Mhm.
side, you're not going to be able to innovate and create something, because you're only going to see one side, left and right. Sometimes you got to flip it over. Sometimes you got to open it, take one piece out, and see other perspectives to come to a new conclusion. And I think that where we are in American culture, Western culture, different ideas where we are, because we have been so caught up in how our systems have run, for the last however many years, where it's now we're being faced with a lot of the elected officials in office and so many folks in position at these corporations. They are scared to move forward and challenge themselves because it has worked for the baby boomers. It has worked this, this long period of time, but we are in a new time period. We're in new technology. What worked back in the day where we just had the conveyor belts and all of that other stuff is not going to work for these young people. It's not going to work for these where we are with the new AI technology and all that. So you have to think way outside of the confines of either or and see the world differently and flip it up on its side.
I'm telling you, you got to put that thing down, flip it, and reverse it.
In reverse.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm telling you. So it's funny because and like you read my chapter, so we're working on this book chapter for our doctoral journey, volume 2. Dr. Mosley and I are
Yes.
co-authors on it, and that's actually how we met. And
Yeah.
they volume 1 is out on Amazon, so go and get you a copy. Okay, I highly recommend. And basically we all have chapters like from scholars at different phases of their doctoral journey. So me having a PhD now, you have some people who are working on their PhD, things like that. Some people who have had their PhD for like 20 plus years, and work in industry and stuff. And so in my chapter specifically, one of the major takeaways that I have is that the world does not operate in binaries, so why do we expect people to?
Yep.
And it's like it's funny to me, like when we expect people or things to be like it's so narrow minded. It's like, okay,
Yes.
I have my view of this. It's like, okay, that's why it's important for you to always want to learn or have somebody around you that can tell you something different, because otherwise you're not going to be able to see any other perspective other than your
Correct.
own. And
Correct.
your own perspective is not going to get you everywhere you need to go to excel and be successful.
Right.
You
No,
gotta know
you're
that.
spot on with that because one of the things that I've been in conversation with folks like yourself and other friends, colleagues, especially one of the things that I love just about being Black. And
Mm-hmm.
Black History Month, here we are.
Ha.
I love the fact that on so many different levels, when I talk about it from the perspective of the blues, of music, of the arts, how we're so very spiritual in terms of we connect with the higher being, we connect with God because, and I'm gonna go on my pastor kid experience right now, but it and when we talk about the scriptures and talk about God in the beginning and how God created us, out of the dust and all of the dirt and all that aspect, we were created with so much inside of us, and I feel that American values, American ideals, Western ideals have restricted us because the level of creativity in Black people, the level of things that we have created out of nothing, that's nothing but God.
Nothing
When I
but
talk
God.
about when I talk about we are, doing, we have I can't think of her name, the woman who did the GPS aspect that we now have attached to so many different forms of technology that we have.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about the music that we've created in America, when we talk about the different levels of creating out of nothing. There's a woman that I was connected to recently, and she was her research experience. She goes back and forth between technology, but the research that she's centering on right now is the textile and fabrics that
Mm-hmm.
as Black folks were doing and during slavery time. And what she found in just her short period of research was that it has come to about $43 trillion that we are owed because
Mm.
we were creating patterns and we couldn't write the patterns down. So we had to remember that in our heads. We were creating the dyes to go along with the fabrics and stuff that we were creating. We had to They were taking the cotton and putting that into thread and turning that into different fabrics and different things like that. It was just so much expansive research that she was coming out of. And she was talking about how just when she came and saw some of the fashions and pieces that some of the tailors had designed, the threads were so fine that you don't see thread like that at all anymore today. And she said the way that they wove it, it was just so intense and uniquely done. And then they had to create the dyes and the colors out of just nothing. But when I think about the creativity just in us, and they try to dumb us down and say we're not smart, we don't do this and all this other stuff. You keep all of this away from us because now we at the fact that you don't want to get showed up. So
Hello,
you
because
don't
that's what it is.
you don't want to get showed up because
That's what it is.
we have been able to take just the little bits and pieces of what you have offered us and given to us. I even think about culinary foods. Now that chitlins has become a delicacy, and so many other things that we have been doing. This fact that you were throwing away scraps, but we made that into foods that have sustained for
Soul food.
time.
I need
So
some macaroni right now. Oh, Dr. Gladys May West is the
yes,
black woman,
yes,
a
ma'am,
black mathematician. As
yes,
FYI.
ma'am.
Mhm.
So when I talk or even think about just in America alone, because when we go back to Africa, there's other names and stuff that we have not even been exposed to because they try to wash away our history. But when we talk about just Black American history, Black American creativity that has come out of us, is nothing but God. It's nothing but our connection to the spirituality and the higherness of who God is, that I understand even more now, which cracks me up, why they want to keep us subjected, why they
Yeah.
want to keep us down, because all of the things that we do, and they still digging and still finding us everywhere they go. But the fact that we're able to do this, and the fact that we're able to still have the mindset to still be here and exist and do what we do, even with less, lets me know of our connection to something much higher than us. And that's why
Yes.
I love being Black all day long. And a darker the berry, baby. Ooh, child.
Okay. I'm telling you. I feel like an intuitive black person, everything they touch turns to gold.
Yes.
Everything. Like somebody that's really tapped in with who they are
Yep.
and what they want, it turns to gold.
Yes, ma'am.
Everything.
Yes, ma'am.
Everything. And I just think about how often times we let these external factors weigh so heavy on us and our self-esteem,
Yes.
knowing that we have everything that we need within us
Mm-hmm.
to be able to be successful if we wanted to, if we would just go
Wanted.
out and get it.
Yeah. If we wanted to, because I
Because
even
I
think
even
about
think
myself when I was younger. I education, I was not the one. I was like, I told my mom, I was like, I ain't going to college. I'm not doing this. I'm over this. But out of all of my siblings, I'm the one that went the furthest, which is why I'm now Dr. Mosley. Out of all of my siblings, I hated school. I did not want to be there at all. But I had to work harder in terms of, okay, this is something that you're struggling with. Sit with it,
sit with
do
it.
your tutoring, go to your extra classes, do whatever you need to do because you got to get out of this. And then when I found that one educator, like I said, Brenda Jones, at Iowa State University, when I was connected with her, and she opened something up in me and sparked an interest and passion. You couldn't stop me at all. Now I'm like, how many degrees in? And they be like,
Okay, yeah.
would you stop? Would you sit down? But now I love it. I love education. I love being able to turn it into something that not only just, gets me going, but I'm also loving the fact that I can work with passionate people like myself who are now mentoring younger people, who are now helping them to see who they are and see the gifts and talents that are in them, and getting them to see at a much younger age the sky's the limit for what you can do.
Right. And if you could share just one like takeaway for somebody to encourage somebody during Black History Month, okay? If you could share one thing to just really encourage somebody, like what would you say?
That's a good thing. I would say, particularly for our people, because I know that we get so caught up in fear and we allow that to keep us back. I would say just jump. Our people love to quote the scripture and talk about faith without works is dead and all this other stuff, and they don't be moving nothing. So you got to work. You got to put some efforts in. So faith with those efforts, with that work, will open up doors, will move mountains for you. So I would just tell somebody who's having moments where they're feeling as if I can't do this. I don't know if this is going to work. You won't know until you try it. You won't know until you try it. Like my first experience going overseas, coming from the south side of Chicago, I now I'm like traveling the world doing all this amazing stuff. I would have never known that I had this in me had I not done it.
Mm-hmm.
And now because I'm doing this, I'm inspiring other people to do it. I'm inspiring younger folks to realize that, oh, you can get out of your neighborhood, you can get out of your community and show the world what you're made of, because we are all one entity and we all have gifts and talents that latches on to other people's talents and gifts, and it will make the world
Mm-hmm.
more functional, move right. So whatever talent, gift, and everything that you have, you won't know what you're made of, what foundation and stuff that you have, until you take that leap and just jump in and do
Just jump on
it.
in.
Jump on in.
Jump on in.
Praise them. Won't it do it? Okay, I said I sing for you. I said I will give you a
Mm-hmm.
word.
Okay. Is this
Um,
going to be an original Dr. Mosley piece,
did it be
or
what? Say what?
I said, is this going to be an original Dr. Mosley piece, or what are we about to
It
hear?
will not. It will not. Um, let me see. One of the things that one of the songs, and I with my experiences growing up in the church, that you never forget where you come from. However, one of the songs that I can remember that kept me through a lot of hard times and held me up with a lot of the times, and as I'm talking, the song is slipping my mind loose here. Let's stop playing. This is ridiculous. But I gotta think of the song. Okay, give me another question on why I'm keep talking, because I'm
Give you
thinking of
another
the song.
question.
Yeah, give me one more
Um,
question.
one more question. Let's close it out. Let me give you one more question. Let's close it out. Give you one more question. Let's go on, add me to your band. Um,
Put you in the back. Let you be the background singer.
right. Look, what they be doing? I can do that. Okay. It's Black History Month.
Mhm.
What Black figure that has been placed in a meme do you most resonate with right now in this current political climate?
Oh. Oh my God. There is the meme that's coming to mind right now is this skinny ass dude. He was naked and just had on some drawers. He was on some roller skates and he was just rolling on past looking like, I can't believe this, but I'm gonna keep on rolling.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel right about now. Cause I feel like we're in just a whole nother time zone and a whole nother world. Cause the stuff that is coming out and the things that is happening, I'm just like, I'm gonna mind my business and keep on just going back because this is ridiculous. That's honestly how I feel. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that
That,
I if you can find that meme, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
that's a good one. Yeah, I already know what you're talking about. And I'm gonna put it. He got on his drawers and he leaning back like this
Yes.
with his feet ankle like this
Yes.
going. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So yeah, that would be one of my favorite memes right now. Okay, I got the song. I remember it.
Okay.
And this is very old school because sometimes them old school songs be taking you through some things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it starts off like, I've had some good days, and I've had some hills to climb. I've had some weary days and some lonely nights. But when I look around and when I
Girl.
think things over, all of my good days outweigh my bad days, but I won't complain. And I'll leave it there right there.
And
Yes.
with that, we just
And
finished.
with that,
And with that, that is the end of this episode. Okay. That was great. You almost got me.
uh-oh.
Yeah,
Thank
almost
you,
got me. They
ma'am.
sitting there. They sitting there, but I ain't gonna blink. I ain't gonna blink too hard because I don't want it to drop because this took a minute.
Right, because that
Okay.
makeup, it took a while to put it on. So no,
Okay. All right.
no,
But
but
thank
no,
you
I
so
thank
much.
thank you so much for the invitation, the opportunity to sit and have a blast with you and talk crazy with you. It was
Touche,
one.
because you know that's what we do.
That's what we do.
All right, girl. Thank you so much again.
All right.